Hey everybody, it's Pat Jack JW right here. We got the Lipsey's edition here of the Glock Retro pistol, if you will. I've actually had an interest in one of these when I heard them coming out. I'm always late to the party, but actually this time it paid off because they came around on the market and it was fairly cheap, so you didn't have to pay the overpriced stuff for them. But anyway, here it is, the Pistol 80. I guess the original designation for this in the Austrian Army was the P80, not to be confused with the gun that haunts you. Anyway, so here it is. It comes with this really cool outer box and everything. And one thing now, going through this is it's kind of a throwback gun, and I'm a really big fan of a lot of those kind of retro stuff and things that I'm kind of interested in or like, such as my other 1911s and whatnot. The packaging is really half the coolness of this thing, I think. So it's got this, they went back and they redid the Tupperware box. And we'll set that aside real quick here. You get a certificate of authenticity. So there it is, and then all your other standard paperwork. But the outer box is pretty neat. They did a good job at it. It's magnetic here. And yeah, pretty cool. They got all the cool stuff there, but I think it's really awesome that Lipsey's actually got them to go and reproduce the original Tupperware box. Yeah, oh boy. But in a sense, these are kind of collectible, if you can believe that too. I remember when I was working at a gun range, somebody actually threw one of them away. So I snagged it out of the garbage can, and that's an original one there. And so here it is. It's got the stickers on it and everything. And there you have it. That's what it is. Okay? It's basically a Gen 1 17 in a sense. And they got the all the stuff here. You got the magazines. Now the magazines are just standard, I believe, just what they are, Gen 4 magazines. You know, no, they didn't go that far and recreate those old U-notch cut magazines and everything other than that. So one thing I did point out, I want to look at the box here. You can see he actually added these finger groove things here, which I thought that was interesting, because if you look at the old ones, they don't have them. That's because that was not a thing when they had the little boxes. So all right, here it is. My interest in it was because I kind of wanted a Gen 1 Glock, really, just because it was kind of cool. It was different. It was retro throwback. And, you know, I'm always into the different and odd, and you don't usually see them anymore. And like I said, I can't believe they're collectible. The original Gen 1 17s are collectible and very expensive. So here we go. Here we got the roll marks. They went and they did the P80 roll mark there. And they went to just the single pin. Now, I'm not a serious student of history of all the changes and everything with these things. There's a ton of other channels that are just like an encyclopedia on these things. But I just think it's cool that you can actually go and buy one of these, and they're price pointed at a point where you can, I mean, if you want to take this thing, like what I want to do is just have it, shoot it, and enjoy it just for its retro look. Just for that classic look, if you will, if those kind of words kind of go next to the Glock. But anyway, like them or not, they do work. They're amazing. I'm not a full fanboy of them or anything like that, but they are kind of neat. So, all right. So they went back, and there's a lot of features on it from what I understand, everything I read, that is true to the originals. Like the front of the trigger is, you know, smooth like that. That pebble stone grip, I understand the originals, they came up higher on the where the magazine or the slide release is, right here, slide stop, if you would. I think that's what Glock designates it as. The very little magazine release, it's a kind of a different, you know, you kind of look back and go, wow, yeah, that's what they had. Now the finish on the slide is not the original like Tenefer finish, because it was cyanide based. They couldn't do it. This is the DLC finish or something, basically what's on the Gen 3. In a lot of cases, basically what you're getting is they redid the molds for the original frame. The original molds were repurposed or something, so the Glock had to go through their old blueprints and recreate a mold that was the exact mold from the past and redo the frame. So that's how they did that. You can tell there's when you grip this thing, you can tell just it's amazing how much different it is than the newer generations that we are kind of know later. And of course, no finger grooves, the notch cut out here so you can rip it. But in fact, it's kind of a throwback. You can see how the Gen 5 is a little bit of a hybrid of a lot of this too. And this one is because it's the original. The thickness between right here is definitely there. And I now see where, now this is the first time I've ever really fondled the Gen 1. You can see where that term comes from, where it's like holding a 2x4 in your hand. Because it does. It kind of has this weird feeling around here when you grip this thing. I mean, it's just kind of strange to me. So, standard typical sights there. And I'm not going to change nothing out on this thing. I kind of got it for the classic look of it and everything. So, the front of the trigger guard does have that same pebble stone type thing. And like I said, back to this, I was reading that, because it doesn't, the stippling doesn't come up, or this pebble stone kind of finish, that's what they call it, doesn't come up quite to this, and I think the reason for that is because here, the originals didn't have this other part right here, the Smyrna, Georgia part. It just said that. Now, these are made in Austria. And I guess that was one of the things they said, well, it would be correct if they made them in Austria, and so there it is. So I don't know how limited they are. I don't think they're very, very limited, because they're price pointed at MSRP at $669. I paid a lot less for this, so I think they're going to be out there. That's one of the reasons I got it, was like I was looking to get one, and I didn't have one anymore. And I thought, it would be kind of neat if I got like an older one. I was actually in search of a Gen 2 and came across this, and it was like, it's like the same price almost for a used Gen 2 that was in, a Gen 2 that was in somewhat decent shape, that wasn't like beat up. So I went with this. It doesn't have the accessory rail, which is cool. I think, for me, this is all stuff I think is neat because it's a retro. And then, just the 2 pins and everything. So let's go ahead and, before we take it down here, you can actually see the barrel is marked right there, all the markings on the barrel. And we'll go ahead and, they stuck with the, kind of what we know as the Gen 2 and 3, I guess it was the recoil spring, because the original ones was not actually captured like this. So there's some things that are not, they're not all completely the same in the standard, barrel and everything. From what I understand, from what I read, is basically you got like a Gen 3 style slide and everything, on top of all this. The internals here. You can see there. I mean, there is definitely changes and differences in the internal workings a little bit, not a terrible lot compared to it, but for the most part, from what I understand, the 1 through 4 generations are pretty much identical on the internals. But no, again, I just kind of bought it for nostalgia purposes, I guess you could say. So kind of interesting. I thought this was kind of really cool to have, and they've been out for a while. It's just that I knew that when I first heard of these things, I was like, there's no way am I going to spend. I mean, when I first heard they were coming out, I thought they were going to be like stupid expensive, but no, they were price pointed fair. Pretty much just a little bit more than a standard run-of-the-mill MSRP on a Glock that you could go to any local store and find. They were price pointed about, again, the MSRP is $669. But when you can get them for less and everything, I thought, why not? And that's where kind of I was at it with them. So again, I'm just going to keep it the way it is. I'm not going to change anything out because I like the retro look and everything, so that's what's cool about this thing, is the price point. Again, it's like if you want it just for the original, you like the original thing like me, and you don't want to spend $2,000 or more on Gunbroker for trying to bid on a legit, Gen 1, you can get this. Now, my only complaint is, I guess I'm not the biggest fan. I wish they would have just done the 17, but oh well, they did that. That is the original designation of it. But there is some areas, I heard that this area here is a little bit more beefed up than versus the original, so there was some modifications. Too bad they didn't actually have the original molds, and we could have got stuff that was from the original molds. That would have been just ultimate. But they didn't. They repurposed them, but they went back and they did it. And I gotta say, you know what? For them, they knocked this out of the park. They really did a good job on doing this, and I'm surprised they did something like this. So, and then of course there's no lanyard, loop thing. So, but anyway, really cool. Thanks for hanging out.